What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you another week of what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan, joined by my co-host. His name is Vengeance, Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, what's going on, man?
It is, man. Speaking of vengeance, tried to buy tickets to Lady Gaga's Chromatical Ball back on sale this year, pandemic delayed, and that shit's just too expensive, my guy. Can't
What do you
do
think
it.
it's going for?
After fees, the cheapest ticket available at Fenway Park was over $200.
Lower than I
And
expected, honestly.
yeah, and that's tough. Live Nation just taking too big of a cut. It's bull. So I'll try and hit resale last minute, see what's up with that. That's in August, but that's lame.
Yeah, that is kind of lame. But yeah, you have the right idea. Hang out around Fenway Park like an hour before and see those prices drop. Go in and see the Gaga. Um, yeah, we both saw concerts this weekend. We're going to talk about them as well as a couple of movies and TV shows that we were excited about, especially The Batman, as alluded to. So if you want to hear that all, the second this drops, hit that subscribe on youtube.com/nostalgiapod and go to Spotify and give us a 5-star rating. And if you want to leave a review anywhere else, I mean, we wouldn't hate it. But Dave, Lady Gaga to Elton John, they've made songs together. They've sang together at times, and saw Elton John this past Wednesday at Barclays Center. So he was finally on his Yellow Brick Road farewell tour. This show was supposed to go off 2 years ago, and the people that graciously took me with them, shout out to Dylan Lee, they bought their tickets for a Saturday night and were very excited for it. And then the pandemic hit, and Elton John was like, "We're just gonna push this shit off for as long as we have to until I can do this again." And so he's back. He's up there. He's in his 70s, and you can kind of tell. He doesn't move around the stage super well. Actually, the most he moves on the stage is his piano is able to like drive around the stage, which is pretty cool because he goes from one side to the other at points.
Innovation.
And it helps him get over to like where some of the costume change areas are. He didn't do many costume changes, only like 2 or 3, but it was definitely cool. He got up a couple of times and would like tell the crowd to like pump up and like interact a little bit, but for the most part, I mean, he was just sitting behind the piano, and he didn't even play a couple of the songs that felt like sure things. I didn't hear Circle of Life or any of the Lion King soundtrack. He got to most of the Elton John like major hits, played like 1 or 2 deep cuts that people were like whatever. Told a really really cool story about his first single. I believe it's called Through the Storm, that he released, and Aretha Franklin covered, and how he became friends with Aretha Franklin from there on out. And she played a fundraiser that he had 6 months before she passed away, and like was very sick and wasn't going to go on, then powered through and just gave this amazing performance. So that was a really cool moment. He had some awesome visuals, not only like pictures throughout his life, but just like some awesome like dance videos to some of the songs and stuff like that. So overall, just an amazing performance. He's been traveling with some of these musicians for 40, 50 years. So really you just hear how tight and professional they are. My main critique, which is not surprising for artists this age, Elton John's earlier songs, a lot of them have very high notes, and the songs stay up there. And Elton just cannot get up in that range at all anymore. So things like Crocodile Rock or like Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, or even like Daniel. There's moments where he gets super high pitched, and he just doesn't have that range. So it sounds a little different, but always great to see a legend. So I was very grateful I got to see him.
Yeah. This was at Barclays, not MSG?
It was at Barclays.
Oh, was that like a late pivot? Because I thought he had 2 MSG dates like back to back.
So I believe he played there earlier, and then these ones were for Barclays Center. Let me look that up.
Yeah, I was looking on like the tour on Wikipedia, but so did he do both Rocket Man and the Dua song Cold Heart. Did he do
Oh
both of
yeah.
those?
Oh yeah.
So it's kind
I
of
mean,
weird, isn't it, to do both?
it is, but the Dua song. I mean, really, the part he sings is a song called "Sacrifice." That what that DJ Panau meshed together his vocals to
Right.
"Sacrifice" with Dua singing the hook to "Rocket Man."
Got it.
Um, so I think for him it's a little different, but the people we were with were like, "Is Dua gonna come out? Is Dua gonna be here?" No,
On
no,
her
no
own tour.
shot. She's on her own tour. She was in DC that night with Caroline Polachek. Did Caroline open up for your show?
Correct.
Was she great?
I did not see her. I got there as she ended.
No, Dave. She's huge right now. She's
Yeah, I
great.
know.
She's like in that Charlie XCX mold.
I know.
Anointed. Um, but yeah, people went crazy for that. The whole crowd was into it the whole time, which was great, and people were like in the aisles, like dancing, going nuts. So very, very strong performance and overall experience. So
So I just
highly
got the
recommend seeing him.
so I got the update here. He did back-to-back MSG dates in 2018, 2019, and just recently in February. And then he just did 2 Brooklyn dates. And that's where you were. Got it. So I mean, this is supposed to be his final tour, but it's this long-ranging, multi-year tour, hundreds
Exactly.
of dates across the globe. So it's nowhere near complete. But
No.
when it is done, it will be the end. It looks like
Yep.
right now the last scheduled dates are in summer 2023 in Europe. So it's going to be a long time still.
Gonna be a long, long time. Till touchdown brings me around again to find, as some may say. But yeah, go see the tour if you have the opportunity. I'm sure tickets are expensive. I was very fortunate to be able to go. Dave, you also saw a concert this weekend, Aminé. But the concert wasn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, right?
That's correct. So I saw Aminé, the best tour ever, stop in Boston, House of Blues Boston, the best Boston concert venue. However, AJ Tracy of the UK was supposed to be opening up, just about to join this second leg of Aminé's tour, and he was unable to attend this show as well as the next show on the tour, Pittsburgh, because of visa delay issues. Being a resident of the UK, and just on its face, isn't that like the craziest like reason an artist has to not show up? Like this tour was announced months ago. How are there visa issues for a musician?
Yeah, I don't.
Like
I,
like how's this
when you
happen?
said that to me, I was very confused. I don't know how
Yeah,
that happens.
but it's been resolved. He joined the stop in Toronto, so um I'm hoping AJ might like show up for Dave's stop in Boston in May because the Mine tour will be done by then. That's what I'm crossing my fingers about that. But still got a Mine and a Cochase opened up too. And honestly, what really struck me, the two things. One is Amine's got a lot of songs that people like. I think kind of like
Yeah,
sneakily like quite the catalog now. The 2 albums, the 2 mixtapes. He had a lot of songs that got big crowd reaction. And in general, what made the show so fun was it was a really lit crowd. You know, because AJ couldn't be there, Amine's tour DJ just spun for 20 minutes to get people hyped until the right Amine's time to come out showed up, and that was rowdy as hell. It was great, just running through bangers of all genres. Schoolboy Q, Kanye, Gucci, Little Baby, anything you can think of that's like a major rap banger of the last 10 years. He played it and like he would mix and transition quickly. And man, people were like losing their shit. It was fucking awesome. And then Aminé actually comes out and you're like, oh yeah, Aminé's got like a bunch of records. And I really enjoyed it. There was one thing I thought was really cool that Aminé did. He after Spice Girl towards the end of the set, which got a great response. After Spice Girl ends, and like in the song Spice Girl, he says, I believe that's like common, like, refrain in the song. Right as Spice Girl ends, they immediately go into Spice Girl's Wannabe. I'll tell me what you want, what I really, really want. And again, the crowd lost it. I just thought that was actually kind of like
smart move.
yeah, a unique choice. But yeah, I mean, there's one point he like brought someone up on stage and talked about how he has these jeans he's wearing. There's like patches from every place he goes and stuff, and that person got to sign the patch and stuff. And the set design was pretty unique to him, Portland inspired. But yeah, he was a lot of fun, and actually did not end with Caroline, which is what I expected. That was the second to last song. He ended it with Reel It In instead.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was a good time despite AJ not being there.
Yeah, I know you were bummed about not seeing AJ, and you sent me a video of some of his performances. Definitely would have been cool to see him in a small venue like that.
Yeah, well, just the other thing is like UK artists, UK rappers, they're not in the US playing all the time. It's unique, it's
True.
rare. So like it's just an opportunity that I'm disappointed to miss, but hopefully he'll be back. We'll see. But yeah,
Um,
I'm seeing Dave in May. So at least I'll get some of that UK fix soon.
Dave seeing Dave, can't ask for more than that. Well, Dave, before we hop into the TV and movies of the day, we should probably touch base about this recent news dropping this past Friday that Epic, the video game distributor
Yes.
production company, is acquiring Bandcamp for
Right.
an undisclosed sum. Uh, First, my first thought was, why? Do
Yeah.
you think that this makes sense?
It's definitely an eyebrow raiser for sure, right? It's like Bandcamp gets bought on its face. Okay, I suppose that could have happened one day, sure, but bought by Epic Games, it's kind of weird, right? And I just think that it's something that leaves everyone with a lot of questions. Whether you're a avid user of Bandcamp, who likes to buy things and support their artists that they like on Bandcamp, whether you're an artist that is active on Bandcamp and is finding a way to find a sustainable career as an independent artist in a way that's actually possible, unlike trying to succeed on Spotify and Apple Music. There's a lot of questions, and I think the motives, the future goals of Epic are obviously what everyone's theorizing about and talking about, because when tech of any variety buys something, there will be changes, right? YouTube did change after Google bought it. Things happen. And on the other hand, I've seen people say that, oh, Epic, well, it could be worse. Epic is quote unquote the one of the better people to buy something, the more altruistic, as it were. Of course, the Epic Games Store as a competitor to like Microsoft, Sony, and Steam, much lower commission rate for developers, and the same thing with like their app store. They take like a 12% commission versus Google and Apple taking 30%. So Epic is kind of acting in a similar way to how Bandcamp has been in terms of taking a much lower commission and being more artist creator focused. So if that is to continue, perhaps Epic's, you know, treasure chest of funds can help benefit the Bandcamp platform. Of course, Epic Games is multi-billion-dollar company now because Fortnite is an incredible moneymaker and as a service game. But it's just a lot of questions, right? No matter what they say, we need to see what happens to Bandcamp, because a lot of artists depend on Bandcamp as a way to directly connect with and actually find a way to support themselves, especially during the pandemic when they couldn't tour. So just a lot of questions, but kind of
Yeah.
a very kind of random development, honestly.
Yeah, it feels random. There was one tidbit in the article that you shared with me from Pitchfork where they mentioned that Epic has been really investing and forward thinking in terms of the metaverse.
Mm.
And we haven't really talked too much about the metaverse here on Nostalgia. To be honest, I'm like not really that interested in it, but
I'm out on the metaverse. Fuck that shit.
a lot of very smart and wealthy and innovative
Yes.
people seem to be interested in it. So maybe it is something that we should keep our eyes and our mouths open about or
Hmm.
talking about. Um, the idea of Epic somehow bringing Bandcamp or bands that have their music on Bandcamp and somehow bringing that into the metaverse for like metaverse concerts, like live
Yeah.
concerts in some way is kind of an interesting idea to this. Like I don't know if that's necessarily what they're thinking, but it seems like a really interesting prospect. Like,
Yeah.
they build these spaces and then you buy these virtual tickets for, I don't know, like 10-15 bucks, or like listening sessions, and an artist plays their new album or their new
Right.
single for you. That way, it's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And connecting it to that, I mean, obviously Fortnite has had a lot of success with like big, like in-game concerts, virtual concerts, Travis Scott and
Yep.
Marshmello most famously. But even like broadly speaking, during the height of the pandemic, virtual concerts were very successful from a monetary standpoint and just broadly very popular. And even as concert going is coming back and the pandemic waxes and wanes, perhaps there is something to virtual performances sticking around in some way. And I guess the scale that Epic can provide for people that want to be on Bandcamp, namely more independent, smaller artists, more niche artists, I suppose that is interesting. I mean, I can't imagine that they're buying Bandcamp just because they want to be able to easily license, independent music. It has to be bigger than that. So
Yeah.
uh, a lot more to wait and see on.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the takeaway. Is there's some interesting possibilities here. It could go in a couple different directions, but I think it's kind of in the wait and see stages. So we'll keep our finger on the pulse of this and kind of pay attention as we move forward. But why don't we turn it over to Hulu now, where we're talking The Dropout, the new Amanda Seyfried series about Elizabeth Holmes and the Theranos, I don't know, fraud, I
Yeah,
guess. Uh,
grift.
yeah, based on the Dropout, the Rebecca Jarvis ABC News podcast from, I believe it was a few years back,
Yes.
and um, I've there were 3 episodes dropped. I'm gonna be transparent. I only got through 2 of them, so I think you got through all 3. You might be
Yeah, I
able to
saw all
speak a little
three.
bit more.
Yes.
And I've heard that after the third one, it feels like the show is the season's in a pretty good place. So it feels like there's a lot of meat on the bone still. But I gotta say, like, uh, it might just be the fact that I don't really find Elizabeth Holmes as a person, especially knowing what she did, to be a super fun character to follow. I didn't really love the first couple episodes, but I did think that there's enough there to like keep me on the line. How did you feel about the first 3?
Yeah, so I liked it, and I think the reason I liked it is because it's very easy to compare to all the other stuff that's happening right now.
True.
The American Crime Story esque ripped from the headlines scammer TV show is very in vogue right now. Inventing Anna, not successful. Pam and Tommy, just kind of down the middle. We're gonna get the WeWork one, We Crashed with Jared Leto very soon on Apple, and of course you get the Dropout, a great subject for this brand new genre we're seeing explode right now. But what I like about it is I just think it's really well done for what they're doing in terms of like highlighting the ticks of Elizabeth Holmes and helping you understand why all of this happened in terms of how this grift was able to last for so long before people even realized it was happening. It's really compelling story, even if the person at the center of it is not super likable. But I think Amanda Seyfried is like really
She's great.
she's doing a really good job with this. Like it's not parody, and it but tonally like the show kind of jumps around a little bit, right? Because like on one hand, there's people that were taken advantage of here, and of course all these rich people that lost tons of their investment money, but also patients that got lied to as well. So there's a whole spectrum of that. But then you still like see this Elizabeth Holmes character and like this kind of like perverted like nature that she has in terms of being driven to succeed. It's just kind of fascinating. And like her whole relationship with Sunny Balwani, someone 20 years her senior, that she develops a platonic into romantic relationship,
Mhm.
then working relationship. Like I feel like there's just a lot of juice here.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot. lot to dig into, and I think it obviously all starts with Seyfried's performance, and she really plays this person who is like obviously really smart and driven, but just like a tick off. Like there's just something off about her, and Seyfried plays that so perfectly. I don't know how she taps into it so well, but I was really impressed with that. Um, I also really liked just like in the second episode, and I assume this kind of goes into the third. Like when things start to fall apart with the thing that they're making, the
Right.
invention with
The
the
Edison.
yes, the Edison. The way that the team just kind of starts like panicking around them, and especially I'm gonna say his name wrong. Utkaresh M Budkar M Budkar.
Yes, one of the engineers.
Yeah, I just watched Free Guy, so I just saw him in that.
Yeah, he's
He's
good.
fantastic, dude. He brings a great energy and like fun, but at the same time can like sink into serious so quickly. It's really well
Right.
done. And so I found that sort of thing compelling. I think some of the stuff in the first episode, like the table setting of like her
Right.
upbringing, it's kind of crazy that her dad was also, in like the Enron scandal,
I
like
know.
or at
Yeah,
least like
I didn't
involved
know
in
that.
Enron. Just insane. But like I found some of that stuff a little bit less interesting. I liked it more when things finally started moving with the Edison.
Right.
But what about you? What were your
Yeah.
favorite parts of it?
Well, and that's what's good too, because by the time episode 3, Green Juice ends, Elizabeth has brought Sonny back in,
Mhm.
and Sonny's about to join the company as COO. But also Elizabeth is kind of like reinventing that like girl boss take over the world thing, right? Black turtleneck is back. She's
Yep.
invoking that deeper affectation in her voice that she's practicing on the show so much. I really like how like you see those scenes because Amanda is like doesn't do it perfectly, right? Like really shows how she's like trying to like develop like a almost alt persona for her public facing self. It's really interesting. Uh, but yeah, I think there's like a few like I think really key scenes that really help. I think one of them early on is when Elizabeth gets basically told off by Dr. Phyllis Gardner, played by Laurie Metcalf, on on campus. I think it is, and kind of the whole highlights the whole Elizabeth Holmes problem, right? Is like she's so driven to succeed and change the world, or at least be credited with changing the world, that she's not actually stopping to figure out how to go about doing that, right? It's like skipping all these steps,
Yeah.
and she gets told all that and still does it anyway, right? And
Mhm.
it kind of makes you think too. It's like maybe if Elizabeth Holmes had tried something that she could have perhaps innovated in easier, something outside of science. I don't know. Maybe she actually would have been successful because she was really good at getting people to believe in her and give her
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, no, she definitely was charismatic and obviously very driven and uh I mean just watching the scenes of her like in Japan, just how serious she was or
China,
she was in
Beijing.
China, yes. Um just how serious she was. I think they do a really good job of kind of helping you understand who the character is and just like that drive. It's just I guess for me, like I don't really find the crimes uh angle to be as interesting, I think, as most people in popular culture do. I mean, if you go on Netflix, there's just like a new crime thing dropped every 2 days. It's insane. But I really like Seyfried, and I feel like where she's gone from kind of being like one of the breakouts in Mean Girls to this like more serious roles. She's still kind of in that like second or third tier, but
Right.
um
Oscar nominated for Mank.
right. I feel like she's got potential to eventually be pulling in some really high level roles on a consistent basis, and that this is a decent look for her. I mean, it's a Hulu
Definitely.
miniseries, but um you know that means a lot more now than it would have a couple of years ago. So
For sure. And she actually was replacing Kate McKinnon in this role. I
couldn't have
think
seen that.
Amanda's definitely a lot more convincing as like in college Elizabeth Holmes than Kate McKinnon would have been.
Mhm.
I think that's obvious. But yeah, I mean, I also really liked that scene with Larry Ellison on the boat. I think that's another really good like just highlighting how Silicon Valley works more often than not kind of thing. And then a scene in episode 3, which you didn't see yet, where she goes to the Genius Bar to fix her iPhone and like kind of dresses down without even realizing it. This person who doesn't know what she wants to be yet in life, which is obviously very antithetical to what Elizabeth Holmes has been, someone who always knew what she wanted to do forever. And then she immediately follows that up by going to the board, and the board wants to replace her as CEO. And she almost lifts this dialogue she just had with this random Genius Bar employee at the Apple store and uses it to save herself and save her position as CEO, and thus bring Sunny in the process. Like, I think the shows it just has a lot more going on than some of these other rip from the headline shows we've seen recently, and that's what I appreciate about it. Um, Also, like Stephen Fry is just on the cast as one of the guys in the lab, just awesome. I know
Yeah.
Sam Waterston and Alan Ruck will be coming up as well. So yeah, I I'm not a true crime guy at all, but like when like these kind of series are dramatized in this way, I do find it more interesting, especially when it's like this and it's, trying to juggle kind of a lot of things at once.
I think this is going to be one that we'll probably end up checking back in with at the end of the season. So stay tuned and follow along. So get that Hulu subscription and watch the Dropout. And also, you got to have HBO if you want to watch good TV. And you should be watching Winning Time, the newest Adam McKay, who, just a few short months after his latest feature film, we're talking about his most recent television venture with Winning Time, the rise of the Lakers dynasty.
Yes.
Man, I mean, I was really pumped for this, uh, just because I mean, this is right up, I think, both of our alleys. Probably yours a little bit more than mine, 'cause you're a bigger basketball guy than me. But I, I mean, Lakers, Showtime era back in the 80s.
Right. Late 70s into the 80s where we start.
It's just fun stuff. You're out in LA, everything that kind of comes with that. Amazing cast, which we'll get into, but obviously the first episode really centers around John C. Riley as Jerry Buss. And there's just a lot here. There's a lot here to talk about. I had a really great time with the first episode, The Swan, which was directed by McKay. He's an EP on the whole thing, but the next one is directed by Jonah Hill, which I'm excited to see how
Mhm.
what he's going to do with that. So a lot of good stuff here. Also, should probably note that this was based on a book of almost the same name
Yeah.
from
Showtime.
yeah.
They didn't want HBO didn't want to have a series called Showtime for obvious reasons.
Yeah. So, Dave, I mean, I love the first episode. I assume you're in the same boat, right?
Yeah, totally. I think it's a lot of fun, and that tone is just really fun to be with. It's like a very excessive show in the sense that throwing a lot of stuff out at you. The characters are talking to the audience, breaking the fourth wall. Your title sequence is like, nonstop 70s imagery, right? Like it's a show that doesn't slow down at all, but it's just such a fun ride to be on. And like I don't care if like anything might be like over the top or like drilled home too hard. It's just really fun stuff. So this, and obviously we got to see the whole thing, but like I feel like this is a lot more in line with like what people used to think about Adam McKay before he got serious the past few years, past few movies. So even though he just is the EP on this, he didn't develop the show. Um, I think it's just kind of like a home run thing to adapt into a series. Like it's just kind of obvious. Like obviously there's just so much material here in this story to make into a fun show.
Oh, there's so much here, and what I really loved about the first episode. I mean, you mentioned some of the like fun character, like breaking the fourth wall, and kind of like the wink, wink at the camera a lot of the time. But I really like how it centers around like basically two characters while introducing a lot of the other big players. So it centers around Jerry Buss, played by John C. Riley, and Magic Johnson, who is about to be drafted by the Lakers in this episode, played by Quincy Isaiah.
Mhm.
And first of all, Quincy Isaiah, for this being really his first big role, fantastic, I thought, and kind of
Yeah.
gives off that magic air, that big smile, that charisma so well. But kind of like following those two while also like introducing what's going on with Kareem, with the other point guard there, Stormin Norman, is that it? I
Yeah.
forget what his name is.
N- Norm Nixon,
Norm
played
Nixon, yes.
played by Norm Nixon's real life son, Devon Nixon, who has
Oh,
actually
right.
been an actor. Yeah. In general, most of the
Um,
players are played by like the less famous people on this big sprawling cast.
mhm.
But yeah, obviously it's all magic, all Jerry in the first episode.
Yeah, and seeing Jerry kind of figure out how he's going to pull off this purchase and like his vision for the team while in this time of transition with the other owner, and how he is like like the interaction with his business partner and all it was just really fun. I really loved but like how the name of the episode is the Swan, and that part in the episode I thought was great because you know you
Right.
kind of see Jerry potentially like losing this business deal, and he explains like swans look so graceful on top of the water but underneath they're paddling like hell. And it's kind of like him playing poker at the
Right.
table with this guy and pulling
Jack
on like
Cook.
calling him out, Jack Cook, and calling him out every step of the way. I just thought that whole scene was just really, really well done. My one negative is I thought the scene between Magic and Norm Nixon, where they were playing basketball,
Mm.
I didn't think it was really that great at basketball, which is always hard to like I think show on screen. And of course, like they're also at a party; they're not like actually like playing a game or anything like
Yeah.
that.
They're
But I just
wearing
was
like
like,
pants.
yeah, I just was kind of like, eh. I'm not convinced that these two are professional basketball
Yeah.
players, but
I'll
really,
wait till we
like
see more
besides the
basketball
point.
scenes before judging. But yeah,
Yeah,
you want the basketball to look good, and I think that factored into why they cast less famous people, because most people in Hollywood are on the shorter side of things.
yeah,
Just that's the way how it goes. So if you want someone to be Magic Johnson, to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they gotta look the part, let alone also know how to act. So uh, TBD on the basketball, I'd say. But I mean, there's just so much more like to look forward to, right? Like we saw just in like flashback scenes, Red Auerbach as Michael Chiklis as Red Auerbach, the Celtics
yeah,
coach, and we know uh, Adrian Brody will be coming in as Pat Riley
yeah.
later. It's just a crazy stacked cast. Jason Segel as Paul Westhead as well. Like
I
uh,
mean, we barely got to see any of Jason Clark as Jerry Weston. It was like maybe some of the best like 5 minutes of the whole
yeah,
episode.
just watching Jason Clark
Awesome
just
stuff.
curse up a storm is so funny. But it makes complete sense too. Like, and they explain it. Like I like how like they're doing a good job of, I think, accommodating the casual like basketball historian with this show. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, Jerry West lost to the Celtics 5 times in a row, but he
Mhm.
won MVP at the end, but they still lost. Like, a lot of people know that. But
Yep.
yeah, let's remind everyone. Oh yeah, by the way, Jerry West, that's him. That's the logo. That's where that came from. Like,
Mhm.
it's quick, but the context is never lost, and I think that's especially important because this is going to be a sprawling uh, sprawling story. Um,
Yeah.
but I think John C. Riley, through one episode, really captures that mystique, that persona that Dr. Buss had carried, and that's what he's always known for, is this like larger than life guy that people really like, despite his many vices and all that stuff. So um, it's funny to think about the real world implications of this, because the fallout between Adam McKay and Will Ferrell in
Mhm.
terms of the real life friendship. That fallout happened because Adam McKay didn't want to cast Will Ferrell as Dr. Buss in Winning Time, and instead he cast John C. Riley. But I gotta say, John C. Riley really delivering so far.
Yeah.
So I think he made the right call.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to know that their friendship is on the rocks or not in a good place because of it. But yeah, I mean, John C. Riley, one of the best character actors, and I think
Right.
kind of the tone that the show is going for, he seems to fit that best. So you kind of understand McKay going there. Real quick, just kind of like looking through the cast and people we didn't even really mention all that much. You get down there, and Jillian Jacobs is going to be um, on the show as Pat Riley's daughter. It looks like, which is just kind of like a fun like throw in. You know, someone that has been in a couple of shows. Haven't heard from him a bit. Wood Harris gonna be playing Spencer Haywood at one point, which we know Wood Harris can actually ball on screen, so that's kind of cool. Um, and like you mentioned, I think like you see Jason Segel eventually. Um, there's a lot of people to look forward to here. I'm really I'm all in, and we didn't even mention Gabby Hoffman, who seems like she's going to have a
Right.
fairly decent role in this as well, and she was great
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah. She like
good
runs the
stuff.
I think the Gabby Hoffman character, Claire Rothman, I believe she like kind of like runs the forum and like does a lot of like the operations side of the Lakers and will be probably in a lot of scenes with Dr. Bust. So and she's great. So looking forward to that. And of course you get young Jeannie here as well. Of course, Jeannie Bust, the current owner of the Lakers. Dr. Bust has since passed. So um yeah, I think this is fun and I mean
Yeah,
it's just loaded with characters and personalities and famous cultural forces. So I'm glad to see that, like, at least through one episode, it definitely has a point of view on that story, and it definitely won't be boring.
definitely not boring. Dave, why don't we wrap up that the TV section there and jump back to Hulu to talk about Fresh, the new horror movie dropping this past week, starring Daisy Edgar-Jones and Sebastian Stan, directed by Mimi Cave. You know, this this movie had so many moments that reminded me of other movies, and
Mm,
it felt like it like really stole from a couple of other things. But I gotta say, like I really enjoyed this. You know, I don't always love like gory horror movies, and so I think some of it I was kind of like,
right.
it's not totally for me. But overall, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Also, the easy transition that I totally whiffed on. Adam McKay also was a co-producer on this, so
Right.
I don't know how I missed that. But Dave, what did you think of Fresh?
Yeah, I liked Fresh. It's funny. I wouldn't really call it a horror movie. Like, it's part horror movie. It's
Mhm.
part like romantic comedy almost too. It's like a psychosexual like horror comedy, I guess.
Mhm.
It has a lot of different tones it's juggling. And I've seen some like negative criticism saying that like there's just too many tones in Fresh. But for me, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. Like I could kind of know, where it's going. Like, oh yeah, okay. Daisy Edgar Jones' character Noah, she'll be the final girl in a horror movie. Like, yeah, we know how that works. But like it's just really fun to be in her and Sebastian Stan's presence, for
Yeah.
2 hours. Because I think they have really good chemistry. And for these two characters, like that relationship I think they put in the work in this film to make it make sense. And like 30 minutes in, when you finally get the title sequence, when Noah gets drugged and like the other shoe drops, basically becomes really tension filled. And I appreciated that. Like, yeah, it's not like some like super gory horror film. Like he when Steve takes some pieces off of Noah, you don't really see it. It's not like we're watching like a Saw movie or anything. But yeah,
Yeah.
overall, I just appreciated it because I thought it was fun and kind of had a lot to say about a lot of different things, and like it was never boring. It was
Yeah.
it was interesting.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was interesting and thought provoking. You know, this critique of like modern dating, modern love,
Mm,
what people actually like want in a relationship, what kind of like what brings two people together. Also, an underlying like theme about it. Um, you know, in thinking about it, like the scene, if you're watching on YouTube, the scene behind me of them dancing kind of reminded me of Oscar Isaac in Ex Machina doing his dance scene with
oh yeah.
the female robot. You know, also like uh, the it had a little bit of like the Get Out feel. You know, kind of like
Mm,
not necessarily like the basement like uh
right.
in Get Out, but just like being trapped and trying to escape this situation and having to like fumble your way out of it. However, Daisy Edgar Jones does. I actually think the that scene where she like seduces him again at the end is
Yes.
really really great. um and also it has like I guess kind of going back to like the Get Out feel, like the friend trying to like find them, like knowing something is wrong, like and then kind of has that twist also. And then you have the other friend showing up and not doing anything, which was also a bit of like a twist on it, which was funny. um yeah, I found this to be really fun, and great look for Sebastian Stan, who I think not only hasn't really the last two TV shows we talked about him in, Pam and Tommy Lee, before that Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he's done all right. Like his performance has been okay, but both shows have been panned pretty critically, pretty widely critically, I should say. And I think he kind of needed a nice role like this to kind of get him back in some good standing. And I think he's fantastic as this like psychopath, but also like super charming, dude. I don't know.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
fun to watch him.
Yeah. Sebastian Stan's been the internet boyfriend for a reason. Like he's a good-looking guy, and it makes sense that he also can, portray that. But I think I really like how they meet, right? Like the trope is that you met someone on Tinder and they kidnapped you. Beware of online dating. But no, Noah thought that she actually had made a genuine connection in real life, the traditional old-fashioned way, and that's what got her in trouble. It's kind of
Mhm.
a flip of what you expect. Now, the movie kind of drops the comment on like modern day dating pretty quickly once you get
Yeah.
past the first 30 minutes, but I still think it gets its point across. You get that opening scene basically with Noah and that dude she's on a terrible date with. I think that really conveys it. Although again, that guy, like, trying to convince us that Daisy Edgar-Jones is somehow like not everything he's wanted in life, and like is not even his type, to use his words, is just baffling. Like, just like in Normal People, trying to convince us that Daisy Edgar-Jones isn't really conventionally attractive is just really funny to me. And
Yeah. I,
thankfully, those two properties, Fresh and Normal People, are still really great. That doesn't get in the way. But hopefully, one day Daisy Edgar-Jones will be in something where that's not like a big aspect of her character, because it's just not right.
Well, and we should say that the guy at the beginning of the film says all this after he's like rejected by Noah, and is obviously saying it from a place of hurt and being just a
Mhm.
basic ass bitch himself. But yeah, no, it is funny that came back up. I immediately just cackled to myself that again, like someone is saying this in a movie when she is just an absolutely beautiful girl, or woman, I should say. Um, a couple other parts of the movie that I thought were really, really fun. I mean, not only like the whole like 30 minutes leading up, I thought was really great. Um, to the title card was really great. But I really liked the like getting out of the house scene. Like
Mhm.
not only the seduction, like I mentioned, where she ended up like biting his dick off, and like how like that was just I saw that coming a mile away, and it still was like shocking to me somehow. But then
Yeah.
like them trying to escape the basement and like everything that came with that, man, like it was just so riveting. And I was really like I felt like I saw every step of the way coming, especially like the wife, like her turn on the friend showing up and trying to kill Noah again. And I still found it all to be super satisfying, especially when her friend Molly ends up hitting her over the head with the shovel and like just beating her to death. I was like, wow, this is exactly what I wanted out of the end of this movie. I thought
Mhm.
that was great. Also hilarious that Molly's ex-boyfriend shows up, and he's like he hears like the gunshots, and he hears like the screaming. He's like, ah, no, I've seen this too many times. We don't we don't get out of this alive. I'm getting out of here. Just like the best like meta commentary like
Yeah.
on that character, and actually just like leaving was really funny. So
Right.
uh really good stuff there. Anything else that you particularly liked?
Yeah, I would have liked more of Steve's wife's character in this, because
Mhm.
like it's revealed that like not only is she uh, knows what he's up to, she's in on it, but she actually was a previous victim, assumingly. and then it's just kind of dropped, and like there's nothing to come of it. I almost was thinking that she would like turn it around and like help them defeat Steve at the end there, but no, it's like just kind of dropped. Also Molly, I really liked like Jojo T. Gibbs's energy as Molly, but the Molly character's just kind of like really basic there to bounce off Noah basically. But for a directorial debut for Mimi Cave, hard not to be impressed. Definitely looking forward to her next film. And like you said, really great to see Sebastian Stan just remind people that he is a talented guy and he doesn't have to just be Bucky Barnes.
Yeah. Real quick, just looking at what Daisy Edgar-Jones has on tap, starring in Where the Crawdads Sing, coming out at some point this year, and then Under the Banner of Heaven, which is also slated to come out this year, a television series, a murder mystery where it's her and Andrew Garfield
Yeah.
investigating this murder within the Mormon Church. I'm all in on that, dude.
Yeah.
Totally all in on that.
Sold. Let's
Yep.
go.
Let's go. Anyways, moving on to the big screen, where the Batman, Matt Reeves, man, what a fun 3 hours that was on my Saturday morning.
Let's go, baby.
Fighting off a bladder that decided to kick in about an hour into the movie. So just an hour and hour 56 of deciding, is there a good moment to go pee? There really wasn't. I just found this to be such a surprise because I felt a little Batmaned out. The Joker came on my TV the other day, right? And I was watching it, and I was like,
Joker.
And I was like, do I really want more Batman? You know, I thought Affleck was okay as Batman, but I was like, you know, we didn't get a Batman movie from him. He kind of was the star of Justice League, so yeah. I guess that kind of counts.
He's basically the star
movie.
of Batman vs Superman, co-star.
True. And so I was like, okay, I'm not totally in on it. Still love the Dark Knight trilogy. So I was like, but do we really need this? And man, I just came out so pleasantly surprised. And
it's a need.
Loved it. So you were pumped for this, right?
Yeah, I was pumped for this. You know, DC has been doing this for a while now, right? Not everything has to be super connected. We will make stuff that is connected, make stuff that isn't connected. We might have multiple Batmans. We might have multiple Jokers. We're just going to take pitches and just try and make good work. Mm-hmm. And, you know, once the Snyderverse for good and bad fell off, I think it was a smart pivot. And, you know, I think we're seeing it largely work out. DC's been doing good. And following Joker, I actually had a lot of belief that's like, oh, what they're saying about the Matt Reeves Batman movie could be real. That like this is a gritty, dark detective Batman. It's like, oh, you know what? Maybe I should believe him. And then you get that first trailer in 2020 at DC Fandom, where you're like, holy shit, that's definitely what it looks like, you know? And once you watch it, like I was just quite impressed because I think it's really pushing to limit what you can try and achieve in these, you know, superhero IP films. Like the ambition of the film is so high, and you know, much like how Joker was so clearly inspired by Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, and you also see it in the production design, like production that's clearly trying to invoke like 70s New York City. The Batman's the same way, and along the way you're also invoking like Humphrey Bogart, like noir detective movies. Like it's actually there, and I find it just really thrilling. And on top of that, like Batman is the most popular DC character, so just to see him done well, done in such a gritty, grimy fashion like this, I just had an absolute blast with it.
Yeah, Batman is the most popular superhero, period. And so you were always going to get another Batman. I kind of assumed this was going to be like a one-off type thing where it's like,
right,
you know, Matt Reeves had this vision, Pattinson's gonna come in, do his thing, and that's it. After the movie ended, I do not think that's the case. I think we're at least getting another one, if not two more.
Also, let's not forget, we will be getting 2 other Batmans later this year in the Flash movie, with Michael
Good
Keaton
point.
and Ben Affleck showing up to the Flashpoint story. So there'll be 3 different Batmans this year. Alas, I agree. There are heavy nods to the prospect of a sequel to this film, and it had a very successful opening weekend, so odds are good. And I welcome it. I don't care that's not connected to anything else, because what it is good, and that's
Yep.
enough.
Yeah, and I think what set the tone best for me is that Reeves really had a vision for how he wanted Gotham City to be in this movie. He really brought in this like 90s like cyberpunk type feel to it. And I think he not only beautifully shot New York City. I don't know if it was actually in New York City. I didn't look up if production was there, but I
No,
mean,
no, I was in London where they made this, but
they they CGI'd in Madison Square Garden and called it Gotham Square Garden.
yeah,
So
same font.
yeah, you know what they're going for here. And I thought it was great. You know, you have you start off with this ode to comic books where it's like this voiceover from Pattinson, uh, basically like reading out of Batman's journal, and
Yeah,
you have the fucking Nirvana soundtrack playing underneath it, and you're just like, oh, this is sick. This is exactly what we're going for. You'd already seen a really grisly murder by the Riddler, but to this point, so you're kind of bought in, and Pattinson just plays such a different Bruce Wayne than we've ever seen. We don't get him a lot as Bruce Wayne. He's pretty much
correct.
Batman the whole time, which I love that choice. Like it seems like it makes a lot of sense for the character who is this totally broken,
Mm.
very emotional and overwhelmed with grief person who is just trying to like exact vengeance, exactly what he says in his first line in the movie, his first line as Batman in the movie, um, on the world by bringing people to justice, whatever that means. And I think his toned down, quiet, emo Batman was just like such a beautiful and like smart take, and it made a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, totally. It's so fully realized, because like you said, it makes complete sense for the film. It's the least Bruce Wayne we've ever gotten in a Batman movie, but also welcome. If you were going to keep making Batman movies, so at least do something different. We eschew the origin story. We do not see the Waynes murdered in Crime Alley. We also don't see Bruce become the Batman either. This is a year 2 story. And I think it's just really smart to incorporate, like you said, this broken, messed up Bruce who doesn't care about all the other stuff that Bruce Wayne would be up to. He's just Batman right now. That's his thing. So it makes sense that, yeah, we're not going to really see him go to the galas and schmooze as Bruce
Right.
Wayne during the day, because that's just not what this Bruce in year 2 of being the Batman would be doing. And yeah, I mean, I Pattinson, big fan. He's been crushing it the last 5, 6 years, making great choices. To see him come back to franchise fare in the biggest possible way as the new Batman, and then have it be this kind of Batman, feels very in line with what he's been doing the last 6 years. I think it's another great choice by him, and I really like the performance because it's exactly what Reeves was going for with this version of Batman.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think not only is it like right in Pattinson's wheelhouse for the kind of characters he's been playing, but it kind of allows him to almost kind of explore and kind of kick the franchise stigma that he started off his career with kind of like to the curb in a sense, because whereas the Twilight characters were so cartoonish and ridiculous, this is like a franchise that is like ultra grounded as much as a superhero movie
Yeah,
can be grounded.
no
And
powers.
yeah, and I think the way that Pattinson not only is like playing this grounded superhero, but one who like as a character is fully fleshed out in this movie to a point where it's like, yeah, everything he does makes total sense, including like his growth throughout the movie. And, by the end, like where he kind of accepts what he has to be. I just thought it was like, oh, this is makes total sense for where he's at in his career, given the last 10 years post Twilight. Um, he's playing opposite Zoe Kravitz for a lot of the movie, who, dude, I mean, Kimmy, and then this, it's like she is just a fucking rocket. Like I don't know, man. She stole the movie for me. I just thought every scene she was in, she was the main thing to look at, and then everything else was kind of just wallpaper a lot of time.
Totally. Yeah, well, and like we said, like the production design, the way the movie looks really brings you in. But like once we're in the Iceberg Lounge, which looks fantastic, looks so great vision of the Iceberg Lounge, which in the past has been a much more cartoonish, you know, uh, hub for the Penguin. In this case, it's having it be like a fucking like house club, and then like you're like you see Zoe walk up as a waitress at the club, and you're like, holy shit, yeah, this is perfect. But like she just has such presence at all times. She always has. But now she's just getting these great parts too. Like the cat is out of the bag. It has been for some time. That's Zoe Kravitz is great. And obviously this is the best Catwoman we've got. No shots to Pfeiffer or Hathaway, but this is just the best version of the character.
Oh yeah.
And the motivations of Selena Kyle are completely fleshed out and developed throughout the course of this film. Everything she does makes complete sense. On top of that, she has amazing chemistry with Pattinson,
Unbelievable.
and the sexual tension between the Batman and Catwoman is off the charts.
Yeah.
So it's complete success having Catwoman in this, played by Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah, we're referring to that sexual tension, that scene where she's like looking for Annika's passport, and Batman comes up behind her, and then the guard comes in. He like pulls her around the corner, is like holding her like against him. And people in my theater, I thought, were about to like lose their mind. It's not only were like the people sitting next to me, these teenage girls who were there for Pattinson, but obviously also big Zoe Kravitz fans, and they were literally like falling out of their chair watching this scene. They just were like, they couldn't believe it. Yeah, and throughout the movie, it's just there the whole time. I think what I really loved about this Selena Kyle is obviously can't match Bruce in terms of physical strength or just like weaponry, but her ability to like uh emotionally understand him without actually knowing him. I mean, calling him out, oh, you're just a you're just a rich kid underneath that mask, if that's the way you're seeing the world. I just thought that made such a great like sidekick for Batman, and like in terms of the growth of Bruce throughout the movie, made total sense to have someone challenging him in that way, who also had a similar story as an orphan. And I mean, it really is like a story of three orphans, right? Because you also have Paul Dano as the Riddler, who is just completely playing a different version of who both of these characters could have become, looking for
Yeah,
that revenge instead of that vengeance. And I just thought the three orphan story made so much sense in this.
yeah,
Matt Reeves really thought that through well.
totally. And kudos to Warner Brothers for taking this pitch and letting him enact his vision and not meddling in this. He's had nothing but good things to say about the whole process. Uh, yeah, man. I mean, Dano. I mean, as soon as that got announced, I thought that was brilliant. And if you've watched Prisoners,
Yeah.
you probably understand where Dano's taking this, because that's where he went with this. But to Reeves' credit again, the conception of the Riddler this time around is not something like over the top and cartoony like Jim Carrey did. It's, I think, far scarier because it's a much more believable as a kind of radicalized person who can gain followers online with these very extreme views on society. And if you remember like the incel talk when Joker came out, well, actually we got those characters shown to us in the Batman, funny enough. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think probably the first 90 minutes or so, when it's really hard noir, I just thought it was so captivating
Oh
as a
yeah.
film. Just literally, he really did it. He made a detective Batman movie, the world's greatest detective. We finally saw it, was so cool. Like just watching Jeffrey Wright be like, "This mean anything to you?" And then Batman, like, "Yeah, I know the fucking riddle, bro." And just having to go
Yeah.
through that, and like we get shown we get to the Iceberg Lounge. We can see that cool vision tech that Batman
Hmm.
shares with for Catwoman, and then like then the cameos start coming up, right? Peter Sarsgaard as the DA,
Yep.
so good, so overqualified for that performance or
Yeah,
for that
basically
role, but
10
the
minutes in the
performance is
movie.
great. Yeah, and then of course we encounter the Penguin, played by an unrecognizable Colin Farrell. Later we get Carmine Falcone by John Turturro. Like it's just so lived in, so fully realized. But the detective part is what really grabbed me in the early going. I was just so thrilled with it.
Yeah, I thought the riddles and how quickly he could solve them were just like, yeah, this is what Batman was in the comic books, just this great detective on top of being this martial artist and this superhero. I loved that part too. I also really thought, like, and you said this before, the Riddler was quite menacing and scary throughout the movie. Not only like the duct taping the head of the mayor up, and then putting was it the DA or the commissioner of the police, putting the
Yes.
thing on his head where the rats ate his face, like the
Mm.
like super creepy, scary things. But the who done it of it all and like following along, y- I just thought it was a lot of fun, like you said, and you could even go to ratalada.com and like it will give you like a clue if you click on a certain thing. It's very cool that they like built that out. So yeah, I loved all that stuff, and also how like they thought they had figured it out. It leads to this amazing car chase of like who
Yes.
the rat with wings that
With
can't
wings.
fly or whatever.
Yes. Am
Um,
I the only one? Am I the only one who knows the difference between L and La?
Colin Farrell just going for it as the penguin, but awesome. But that car chase, dude, was
Yeah.
incredible. What one of my favorite parts of the movie for sure.
Right. Yeah. So much went into doing that practically. A lot of nods to like French Connection and like famous
Mhm.
like car chases of the '70s. Um, Greg Fraser was the director of photography for this film, and he had just shot Dune as well. I mean, the movie just looks so good, and there was such I think, a keen attention to like this version of Gotham and like really making it feel like a specific place. I was quite impressed with Colin Farrell. On in a sense, in a movie where you already have the Riddler and Catwoman, do we really need the Penguin? Is the Penguin just there for the HBO Max series that's being developed with Farrell? Who knows? But I actually kind of liked his figure as like a heavy for Falcone that then steps up into becoming the Penguin that we more uh, easily know. And Farrell, I think, just really kind of chewed on the scenery with like a New York accent. I think this definitely kind of washes away his nothing part in Fantastic Beasts 1. Like he was just in a franchise movie, lest we forget. But this is just he's really just having such a blast these days, just being like a character actor.
Yeah, no, I mean Farrell's great, and we just talked about him in Forgetting Yang,
After Yang,
but
yeah,
after Yang, Forgetting Yang also might not have been a bad title for that movie. But alas, yeah, I thought he was great. Really loved him in this. Also, Tutoro, like he just kind of shows up like an hour into the movie, and you're like, oh, this is John Turturro just being fucking awesome. Like he has such a
right,
presence, and like as Falcone, just kind of like this, like he's there but not really there, but kind of overarching everything. Just like amazing. I thought he was great.
right. Yeah, I love the scene where Bruce goes to him and
Mhm.
asks him what happened to his parents, and he like blames Maroni. And I immediately thought of The Dark Knight, the famous quote, "It must have been Maroni's men." But Falcone in this movie was like, "It must have been Maroni's men." Can't prove it,
Mhm.
but that's what I think. And like it totally convinces Bruce. Then he obviously we learn that no, it was most likely Falcone. At least that's what Alfred thinks. And it's like I love kind of all those fake outs, similar something else that's set up across a lot of the film. Selena, Falcone's her dad. They kind of make it seem like he also knows that, but he actually didn't know that the entire time. I really like that choice too. Um, And then at the end, when Batman goes to see the Riddler at Arkham, the way Riddler starts talking, Bruce Wayne starts getting Batman on edge. He's like, fuck, does he know my identity? Because he didn't know my identity before when he tried to
Right.
kill me at Wayne Manor. Does he know my identity now? And it's like a whole like 2 minutes before Batman's like, oh no, doesn't actually know my identity. But
I know.
before that, he's like glancing up at the security cameras, like, fuck, am I blown? Is it all
Yeah.
over? And it's not. Like I really like how they kind of set up a lot of these like little fake outs throughout the film.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great, especially because before he goes to Arkham, it shows him like looking at Bruce on that like newspaper cover, the night the Waynes were murdered, and it has like a picture of like Bruce Wayne and the Waynes kind of all up there. So it's like kind of throwing you for a loop there. Man, you just talked about maybe one of my favorite scenes in the second half of the movie, which is um, Paul Dano as the Riddler at Arkham, finally getting his 5 minute monologue as
Mm.
the Riddler, and I just thought he crushed it. Like, throughout the whole movie, he has these moments where he's live streaming and being super creepy and weird. He FaceTimes with Bruce and the DA at one point at the memorial service, and he's going for it the whole time, like screaming at certain parts, going quiet at other parts. He's really creepy. But that scene at Arkham is just so like uh I don't know. It's literally like watching one of the serial killers on Mindhunter or something like that.
Mm.
And I just thought he was fantastic in that scene. Um and just like you said, he kind of brings that vibe he brought in Prisoners the whole time, and it's pretty pretty creepy for sure. Um so I know you really liked the first half of the movie. I wanted to ask you about the second half because I think the second half of the movie is much different. It's a lot more of like the action. You kind of,
Yeah.
like I said, you kind of get the showdown. Yeah, MSG with the Riddler's followers, kind of some of like QAnon type guys. How did you like the second half of the movie?
Yeah. Well, I think the second half is like, weaker than the first half, quote unquote, but I still really enjoyed it because I just think the whole vision of the film still really works. Like before it's like, oh shit, the seawalls are crashing down and there's like
Mhm.
widespread catastrophic flooding in Gotham. And oh wait, now there's going to be a mass shooting in MSG because the followers are there. It's like things get real really quick, you
Yeah,
know, and it moves at a much faster pace than the first half of the film had been going. But I still didn't mind it because I think they earn it by having Batman like almost push to kill and then having Selena like show up at the last second and like saving him and stopping him, and
just
I
like
just
he
think it
stopped
all
her.
works. Yeah, I think it all works, and I really like seeing like Batman on the roof of the building as the National Guard's coming in, and like it's like clearly progressing the story to now Batman is a fully publicized figure in Gotham, and I think kind of sets up an interesting level of change for a future film. But just in general, like this movie, like makes no qualms about the fact that like Batman doesn't even know if he's making a difference throughout the whole thing in terms
Right.
of Gotham's crime and like quality of life and stuff and corruption. And at the end, he's like realizing that he can still make a difference to individuals, even if like the system still like keeps things down. Like I think it all still kind of worked and fit with that overall vision that the movie was setting you up with. So I still liked it.
Yeah, I like the second half. Probably not as much as the first half, but I agree. I think where Bruce ends up kind of being that symbol of hope for the city, and that character growth makes a lot of sense. I do like that they set up some sort of potential for the Joker, played by Barry Keoghan,
Yeah.
in at Arkham with the Riddler. I don't know if we'll necessarily see him in the next one. I almost think they might be like setting that up, and eventually like it'll be some big Arkham escape type thing. And I don't know, I whatever, because setting up Arkham as being Bruce's mom's maiden name, obviously I think there's going to be something where he has to go to Arkham Asylum at some point.
Mm,
So
right. Well, if we remember before the Batman came out, they announced a Gotham Police Department series for HBO Max, and then later announced a Penguin HBO Max series as well with Colin Farrell coming back. We've since learned just recently that Matt Reeves confirmed that the Gotham PD show is not happening anymore. There were creative differences. We knew there had been showrunners dropping out and stuff. They're not making that. However, it seems to have now morphed into an Arkham Asylum type HBO Max series. So interesting. I'm sure we'll hear more about that, but it also makes sense because that's kind of what WB's been doing. They've been blowing up HBO Max with more spin-off series. You got the Bennett Gesserit Dune spin-off coming to HBO Max as well. All these DC series they've been doing. So kind of fits with what they've been doing. But I can't wait for either of those shows just because this world is so fully fleshed out and developed that just to get back anytime, let
Yeah.
alone for the next movie. Sounds great.
A couple of quick questions I wanted to ask you. Andy Serkis, Jeffrey Wright. How'd you feel about their performances?
Yeah, good. You don't get a ton of Andy Serkis as Alfred, probably the least served of the big cast here, but I enjoyed him. It was definitely a committed performance, and I like Jeffrey Wright as Gordon as well. I think it's cool to see a Gordon who's not fully at the top as commissioner just yet, and is almost like going rogue with association with Batman. But even like when I loved like seeing like Gordon and Batman walk through the police line around all these cops and enter the crime scene, like seeing all that stuff and seeing like Gordon like hold it, keep everyone at bay. Uh, I thought it was really great. But you also don't get a ton of Gordon either. Like it's almost
Yeah.
more just like the detective stuff early on. But I think still good enough.
Yeah, I really liked Jeffrey Wright in that role, and I feel like he got a little bit more to do than he usually does. A little more like action, like shootout scenes. I loved
Right.
the scene where the cops want to unmask him, and he has to like basically get Batman out of the police precinct. I just thought that was an electric
Yeah.
escape scene. Um, and ending in like a pretty brutal crash where like Batman's just like fine after he almost like breaks his leg, which I thought was funny. Um, going back to Alfred though, I gotta say, it's a pretty tough look when the first minute that Alfred wakes up from basically a coma. The first thing that Bruce says to him, Alfred smiles at him and Bruce goes, "You lied to me." Like, like just it's a tough first thing to hear when you get out of a
Mm.
medically caused coma. I don't know.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
But it makes sense for this version of Bruce.
True. Yeah.
One
Selfish
track
and
mind.
yeah, but oh man, I like actually started laughing in the theater because this was like, damn, like let the guy have like 2 minutes where he's like, why the fuck am I here? I'm not dead. Like what the hell? Um, yeah, but I enjoyed both their performances. I think this is definitely set up for a fun trilogy. Um, if that's what it comes to, at least one other movie. Do you feel like this is your favorite Batman now?
No, I would say my favorite's still The Dark Knight, but I think this is my second favorite Batman movie. I'd probably have this over Batman Returns and Batman Begins. And there's been a lot of Batman movies, so to make the second or third best Batman movie is still quite the accomplishment, I'd say.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. It's probably third behind Begins for me. Just really love that Nolan trilogy. Where does uh the Riddler from this movie rank in terms of the villains for you? Obviously, it's not Ledger, but second,
No, yeah, it's a good one. I mean, there's been a lot of great villains. You got Nicholson Joker, DeVito Penguin. Hmm, it's tough. Yeah, though. I mean, I think he's up there in the second tier, obviously behind Heath. Yeah, I mean, Bane is Bane is almost overrated. I think, given what we get in Dark Knight Rises, even if people like the performance from Hardy and like the energy and all that. And I'm not as high on Ra's al Ghul and Batman Begins as other people are, but I think this is up there. This was done really well, and
yeah,
I'm definitely not opposed to seeing more Penguin as well because I think Colin Farrell has potential to do really great as a primary antagonist as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on both points. I would probably put this Riddler as the second favorite villain for me. I'd say, and I have to imagine if you have the Dark Knight up there at number one in your Batman rankings, then you probably also have the um, God, why can't I remember Christian Bale Batman as your
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah. I mean, Christian Bale for sure is definitely the best Bruce aspect of Batman. Obviously, he's also like the most to do as Bruce. But I think overall, yeah, I'd probably still go with Bale. But like for this specific vision of Batman, I mean, it's completely nailed by
Yeah,
Pattinson and delivered on by Reeves. So that one's always kind of interesting to compare though, because obviously they're all so different tonally, whether it's Adam West, Keaton, Bale, or Rob, let alone
yep.
the two Schumacher ones. And then again, you get a lot of the hardcore DC people really enjoyed Affleck. So I think in general, we've largely done really well with casting Batman to this point.
Yeah. I could very much see this vision of Batman being like a prequel to the uh Affleck Batman, just kind of in terms of the like grizzled, like toned
Right.
downness. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely up there. It might be it's probably second for me in terms of favorite Batmans. I mean, they like you said, they're all so different, so it's kind of hard to totally compare. But I don't think Bale could have played this, but I do think Pattinson could have played Bale. Probably not as
Oh,
well, but
yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
watch Pattinson in Tenet. You know he could have
right?
done
Yeah.
Bale Batman. We already know
Oh,
this.
yeah. Great point. Great point. Any last thoughts on the movie? Anything else you want to touch on?
Glad to see it was very successful at the opening weekend. 134 million domestic, which is actually higher than the total gross of any WB movie in 2021. Obviously, the HBO Max day and date stuff is now gone in 2022. Um, so I'm hoping this has a nice, successful run. Like, obviously not as big as Spider Man, but still hoping it does really well because I would really welcome that sequel. So,
Same here.
yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it us for us this week. The Batman, man, go see it. Just go watch it. Dave, what do we got for next week?
Yeah, so Pixar delivering their latest feature film, Turning Red, on Disney Plus. Excited about that. Also, Netflix from Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds, the Free Guy team, teaming back up again for an original sci-fi film, The Adam Project. Not sure if it's good, but the fact that it's some kind of original big movie, I think definitely warrants attention, especially coming off Free Guy. Also, Marvel's Mrs. Maisel wrapping up on Amazon Prime, season 4. That 2 episodes a week catches up quick. Survivor season 42 premieres this week. We'll talk about that when the series concludes. And lastly, Formula One Drive to Survive season 4 out on Netflix this Friday. Get fucking hyped.
Dave, can I just jump into that? Do I have to watch the first three seasons?
No, I mean you can just jump right in and it's just the current season. You don't necessarily need to know what happened in the past.
Perfect. All right, so maybe I'll check that out as well, just to kind of see what's going on. I'm not really
Yeah,
into F1 yet, but
I
maybe
think if
this
we
will
can
swing me.
present an interesting perspective to someone who is very much into it and someone who is not into it, and see if it's effective for both parties.
Well, if you want to hear both those perspectives and more, subscribe at youtube.com/nostalgiapod. Go to Nowstalgia on Spotify and give us a 5-star rating. Also, follow we didn't talk music this week, but follow our best music of the year on best Nostalgia Best of 2022 playlist on Spotify. And if you really want to, go to SoundCloud, give us a follow there. So we'll catch you all next week. Peace out.